Have you ever noticed that the people who seem to command the most respect are rarely the loudest in the room? They are not constantly explaining themselves. They are not posting every thought. They are not desperate to be noticed. Yet somehow, when they speak, people listen. When they enter a room, attention shifts. And when they leave, their presence lingers. Most people spend their lives trying to become more visible, more available, more accessible. They believe attention is earned through constant exposure. So they speak more, share more, explain more, react more. And over time, something unexpected happens. The more they try to be noticed, the easier they become to ignore. Because human nature contains a truth that few people understand. What is always available is rarely valued. What is constantly present is eventually overlooked. And what is endlessly explained loses its mystery. The Stoics understood that power does not come from occupying every space. It comes from mastering your presence within it. Real influence is not about being everywhere. It is about being remembered when you are gone. And once you understand this principle, you begin to see why some people spend their entire lives chasing attention while others effortlessly command it.
Welcome to True Stoic Journal, the path to inner control.
One of the fastest ways to lose your influence is to make yourself available to everyone. This sounds strange because modern culture teaches the opposite. We are told to stay visible, stay active, stay connected, stay relevant. Always respond. Always engage. Always explain. Yet the more people follow this advice, the more exhausted they become. Not because visibility is wrong. Because constant visibility destroys value. Think about how people treat abundant things. They take them for granted. They stop noticing them. They assume they will always be there. The same thing happens with people. When your attention is always available, it becomes expected. When your presence is constant, it becomes ordinary. When your opinions are offered endlessly, they lose their weight. This is not cruelty. It is psychology. The human mind naturally assigns value to what appears scarce. Not because scarcity is magical. Because scarcity signals importance. The Stoics understood this without needing modern psychology to explain it. Marcus Aurelius rarely sought attention. He focused on substance. He focused on character. He focused on action. And because he did not chase recognition, recognition often followed him. Most people reverse this process. They chase recognition first. Then wonder why respect never arrives. Respect is not created by visibility. It is created by value. And value is strengthened when it is protected. This principle becomes even more important in relationships. Many people unknowingly weaken their position by constantly seeking reassurance. They over-explain their intentions. Over-communicate their feelings. Overextend their availability. Not because they are weak. Because they are afraid. Afraid of being misunderstood. Afraid of being forgotten. Afraid of losing connection. The irony is that these fears often create the very outcome they are trying to avoid. When someone constantly explains themselves, they communicate uncertainty. When someone constantly seeks validation, they communicate dependence. When someone constantly pursues attention, they reduce the value of their presence. The Stoics understood that self-respect begins where desperation ends. A person who values themselves does not need to force their importance. They allow their actions to speak. Their character to speak. Their consistency in speaking. And because they are not desperately trying to convince others of their worth becomes easier to recognize. There is another mistake people make. They believe silence is weakness. In reality, silence is often a form of strength. Most people are uncomfortable with silence. They rush to fill it. They explain too much. Reveal too much. Speak too quickly. Not because they have something meaningful to say. Because silence makes them nervous. The Stoics practiced restraint. Not because they feared speaking. Because they understood the value of speaking only when necessary. A person who speaks constantly teaches others to ignore them. A person who speaks deliberately teaches others to listen. Think about the most respected individuals you have encountered. Were they constantly talking? Constantly interrupting? Constantly inserting themselves into every conversation? Probably not. They listened. Observed. Considered. Then spoke with intention. Their words carried weight because they were not wasted. This lesson extends far beyond conversation. It applies to every aspect of life. Many people feel pressure to share every achievement, every plan, every goal, every opinion, every moment. But not everything needs an audience. Some goals grow stronger in private. Some ideas develop better in silence. Some victories become more meaningful when they are lived rather than announced. The modern world encourages constant broadcasting. The Stoic path encourages thoughtful restraint. Not because secrecy is power. Because focus is power. Every moment spent performing is a moment not spent becoming. This brings us to one of the deepest truths about influence. People remember what makes them think. Not what overwhelms them with information. The human imagination is powerful. When everything is revealed, curiosity disappears. When every detail is explained, the mystery vanishes. When every thought is shared, attention weakens. But when a person leaves room for curiosity, something different happens. People lean in. They wonder. They observe. They pay attention. Not because they are being manipulated. Because curiosity is part of human nature. The Stoics never encouraged playing games with people. But they did encourage self-mastery. And self-mastery includes knowing when not to speak. Knowing when not to react. Knowing when not to reveal everything. The strongest person in the room is often the person who feels no need to prove they are strong. The wisest person in the room is often the person who feels no need to prove they are wise. And the most influential person in the room is often the person who feels no need to demand attention. Because true confidence does not seek constant confirmation. It rests in itself. Many people spend years chasing visibility because they believe visibility creates significance. Yet significance comes from contribution. From depth. From substance. A person can be seen by millions and forgotten tomorrow. Another can influence a handful of lives and be remembered for decades. The difference is not exposure. It is an impact. The Stoics always emphasized substance over appearance. Character over reputation. Reality over performance. Today, many people have reversed those priorities. They carefully manage how they appear while neglecting who they are becoming. They focus on being noticed rather than being valuable. And eventually they discover that attention without substance feels empty. Because attention is temporary. Character endures. There is also a hidden cost to constant exposure. It steals your ability to think deeply. When you are always responding, always reacting, always performing, there is little room left for reflection. Little room for growth. Little room for wisdom. The mind becomes crowded. And crowded minds struggle to produce meaningful insights. This is why solitude was so important to the Stoics. Not because they rejected people, Because they understood the value of uninterrupted thought. Marcus Aurelius wrote many of his most powerful reflections alone. Not for an audience. Not for applause. But for understanding. He was building clarity rather than attention. And clarity outlasts attention every time. The person who never steps back eventually becomes trapped in noise. The person who creates space develops perspective. And perspective creates better decisions. Better decisions create better outcomes. This is why strategic absence can be powerful. Not as a manipulation. Not as a performance. As a commitment to growth. Sometimes the most productive thing you can do is step away from the noise. Step away from the constant need to respond. Step away from the pressure to perform. And invest that energy into becoming stronger. Wiser. More disciplined. More capable. Then, when you return with substance. Not just visibility. Anyone can demand attention. Few people become worthy of it. And that distinction changes everything. The world rewards those who create value. Not those who merely seek attention. The world remembers those who contribute meaningfully. Not those who simply remain visible. And the most powerful form of influence will always come from who you are rather than how loudly you announce yourself. If this message resonated with you, take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs this reminder, and subscribe to True Stoic Journal for more timeless lessons on wisdom, self-mastery, discipline, and inner peace. Remember this, the strongest presence is not the one that demands attention. It is the one that leaves an impression. Stop chasing visibility. Start building value. Because when your character becomes powerful enough, your presence will be felt long after you leave the room.